He was finally ready, though he wished not to be. He was waiting to be called into the council chambers. It had taken his people 2 elections and 3 wars to get here, but he hated it. He jokingly joined the election as a candidate and openly stated that they were nowhere near ready to join the galactic community, and yet he won a landslide victory. Finally, the doors opened, and he marched in and to the podium, glancing around the room. To his dismay, the council sat in 3 blocks. Each of them looked lopsided and uneven. Yet he knew better. The first and largest block was the diplomatic, filled entirely with herbivores and cradle-worlders. It was one of their joint ships that had approached the Earth 15 years ago and invited them. The second was a middle ground between the first and third blocks. They were a mercantile block, a tight mix of omnivores with a fine mix between cradle-worlder and death-worlders. The last block was the defensive block, which held only 7 members, with 5 of the members being carnivores, of which 3 were death-worlders, holding the responsibility of protecting the community. The last species in the chamber was the Trith entity, a hive-mind insectoid race that, due to a lack of individual drive, has been made the arbiter of the council. The Trith peered at him with its eye stalks and began a series of clicks and crips into a microphone. "Greeting, human male, and welcome to this forum. This one and the council is eager to hear of the seat your kind will take. But first and foremost, please introduce your being and kind to the stars." It gestured with its forward limbs towards him. He knew his job and what he had to do. Letting a breath out slowly and intently, he looked to the council. "I thank you kindly for the welcome and am eager to tell you of humanity's decision. I am named Andrew Lincoln, and I stand before this great forum as the ambassador of humanity. We humans, as you all know, come from a death world." He paused. The next part would be hard for him, as it was their own investigation that would be presented. A Category 5 death world. Our homeworld has hyper-competitive ecosystems, unstable tectonic plates, wide atmospheric temperature ranges, is not in stellar alignment with our home star, and has a gravitational effect near twice the galactic average. He stopped and watched the unease of the diplomatic block as he listed all of the points. The Trith nodded. "This one sees this as your own classification for your homeworld, and must ask, how have your kind reacted to being told of the wider galaxy?" He didn't want to go over this, after all. It would paint a bad image of humanity. But it's his job. To be truthful, humanity's reaction to the news was a mixture of good and bad. We were excited to not be alone in this galaxy, and to find that the galaxy wants to befriend us too. However, we couldn't come to the galactic stage as separate nations, and thus a war to unify ourselves did ultimately happen. We fought to unify under a singular form of governance, and finally became a republic with an election held every 8 Earth years. We then finally held an election to decide on who would be our ambassador. He glanced at the defense block as they finally paid more attention. It was as he expected. "This one is confused," the Trith chirped. "You fought among yourselves over a form of acceptable governance?" 3 wars, in fact, however, the third was more of a religious revolt. He remembered those days, the fanatics calling for a crusade to, as they put it, purge the Xeno. The first war between the major nations of the Old World, and the second was to bring holdout nations in line with the rest of the planet. The last one was between us and religious extremists group that believed that we, humanity, were entitled to the universe and were chosen by God, or gods. He wasn't sure if the council would understand what that would entail for them, but it was for the better that he didn't elaborate more. "That is quite the extreme reaction to a diplomatic envoy." The Trith paused. "How many of your kind were lost in these conflicts, if you wouldn't mind?" "After every conflict, we did our best to take a true count. However, at our current estimate, we believe that a total of 1 million humans died during the conflict and due to the after-effects of the war." He grimaced at the information. Humanity may never know exactly how many died. "Well, that is serious news, but after your seat is confirmed, aid will be sent," the Trith stated, gently lowering themselves. "Now for the important question, to which block will humanity assign themselves?" He felt the knot in his stomach, and he drew a deep breath. Humanity, after long and intense debate, has settled on the belief that a seat in the diplomatic block would be our best place. The sound, or lack thereof, was deafening. The room of close to 100 races seemed to freeze. Of course it did. A Category 5 Deathworlder race that had just fought not one but 3 wars. Who had arrived with a 3-ship escort. A race that was so effective in combat and warfare asked to be in the galactic community as one of its diplomats. The Trith snapped out of this stunned haze first, most likely due to its nature. "Forgive this one for its confusion, but you wish to join the galaxy as diplomats?" It eyed him and seemed to try to read him. "Yes," he said, "humanity, after careful consideration of the responsibilities of each block and its respective members, and have settled the understanding that the diplomatic block would be best for us." The Trith noticed something on its terminal and looked up. This one sees and has heard the Larashi representative, and turned towards the diplomatic block as a large avian rose. The Larashi stood up and looked at him, his small plumage expanded out a bit before speaking. "Humanity is misunderstood. The diplomatic block is for races that do not wish to fight or engage in war. The Larushi people demand you cease this jest." It puffed its chest as it spoke. He could see the Larashi's point. After all, he said himself that they have been through 3 wars. But that wasn't the point. Humanity did want friends and allies, which was easier to get as a diplomatic race. The issue was that they were omnivores and deathworlders, and he and his team found an answer. Yes, the diplomatic bloc was made for that reason, and for that very reason, humanity wishes to be seated there amongst those who value life, who pursue peace, and wish for liberty. The oddity is with human history a very similar statement had once been made. We understand that we most likely scare most of those we would be seated with. However, we believe that we will rise to meet and perhaps surpass your expectations of us. The Larashi deflated as the Trith looked on. This one sees that humanity is sincere in its decision, yet must ask, why not the defensive bloc? He wasn't sure if he should answer or if he could deflect. It was ultimately his choice of how to answer. After reading the requirements for the defensive bloc and their responsibilities and allowed actions, humanity believes that the defensive bloc would not be in our best interest. He stopped to drink a sip of water before continuing. We, the human republic, wish to spend our time in the stars making friends. Not continually fighting, that's not to say we wouldn't thrive in such a seat. However, we want to join this council and live amongst you all. The Trith looked at him again, deep in thought before its attention was pulled to the terminal. This one sees and has heard the coal crash representative. The large quadruped stood up in the defensive block, shaking out its fur. Human. Its voice rumbled like rocks grinding against one another. You claim that you wish for peace and friendship, yet you have arrived with a patrol of warships. Do you honestly believe that we would think of you as pacifist? Andrew looked at the coal crash cautiously, if not surprised that he would bring this topic up. But like much of the rest of his preparation for this, he had an answer. The patrol of ships that had arrived contained only a single warship, a Homefront class frigate to be exact. The other 2 ships are a hospital ship of the Red Cross and an exploration ship. He wasn't sure that it would make sense to them, but he couldn't wait. They each came to represent our desire to explore the unknown, to heal and render aid to those in need, and to defend and protect those we care for. The coal crash studied him for a second before sitting down. This one sees and has heard the Vistani representative, the Trith spoke. The Vistani were a reptilian race from the mercantile bloc, and are regarded well for their scientific breakthroughs. Human, an issue has been found with your statement. Your kind was issued a single FTL device for study. Moreover, you were not provided with the materials to build more. How is it that you have arrived with 4 ships instead of 1? There it was, the question that will hopefully allow them to accept humanity's seat. Humanity's evolution is the cause for that. He looked to the Vishtan. Due to the hyper-competitive nature of our being, we are constantly looking for ways to gain an advantage over our enemies, coupled with the 3 wars we had recently fought. He saw as the Vishtan eyes widen. We found out, during our wars, not only how to build FTL devices, but also how to synthesize the needed materials. How could you have done this? The Vishtan asked. Seemingly unready for the answer, Andrew hoped against hope that this follow-up question wouldn't be asked. Yet here he was. Because humanity didn't evolve as apex predators, we use tools to gain our first advantage, and so every time humans fight something, we have a chance to uncover a new, better advantage. After the Industrial Revolution, these advantages became scientific breakthroughs. We developed guns to replace the bow, tanks to break through hard defenses, planes to control the skies, then nukes to obliterate our enemies. Our level of technology jumps every time we encounter a new foe. We developed drugs and cures to combat diseases. We solved the issue of escaping our gravitational forces shortly after one of our bloodiest conflicts. We uncover anti-gravity tech when we couldn't easily colonize our nearest stellar neighbor. He paused, watching the council slowly digest what he said. This is also why we wish to be in the diplomatic bloc, because with every conflict we fight in, we will get stronger and advance faster. At the rate the defensive bloc fights each other, humanity will most likely match their contemporaries within 35 Earth years and will continue to advance. By our estimates, we will surpass the Council in 100 Earth years and will keep advancing until you will have to choose. You will either attack us, believing us a threat to your current existence, or accept us as an elder race. We don't want that. And yet again the deafening silence, the unease caused by such a statement. The Trith again was first to snap out of the dread of what was said. This goes against the desire of all life encountered. It shifted. If it had eyelids, they would be narrowing. You would willingly stifle your race's advancement into a galactic superpower. Why? I have said why already, Andrew said with a wave of his hand. Humanity wants friends, not subjects. We want peace, not endless war. We want to stand beside you, not lord over you. We came in peace to this council to show our desire to join. He stopped and looked around the chamber. We wish for a seat in the diplomatic bloc to slow our advance and render aid, to help uplift more races and guide them so they can stand amongst us. The council held its breath before the Trith click its mandibles. Humans, this one finds your reasons illogical. However, it is not this one's task to allow you in. It looked down, pressing something on its terminal. The vote to accept humanity in the seat in the diplomatic bloc has began. Andrew felt the inquisitive looks form some of the council, while others discussed amongst themselves. It felt like hours of waiting and hoping. He knew that if they decided not to accept them, then he would have to tell them about Operation Nebula. He hated that name and what it would do. That was the conclusion that the Senate came to. The Trith looked down after a few moments. It seems that the vote has completed. It turned its attention back to Andrew. Humanity has been confirmed as the 50th seat in the diplomatic bloc, and gestured to the bloc. And as per tradition, a moniker must be given, and the one we have found is most appropriate. The Council's traditions are weird, and sometimes inappropriate. Humanity will be assigned the moniker of Anomalies. Your character has been troublesome. You are strong and powerful. Your homeworld has crafted a near-perfect warrior, and yet you have rejected this. You would grow ever more powerful with every war, yet seek peace. An anomaly. The Trith chirped. Thank you, Arbiter, he said. Humanity happily accepts this great honor and looks forward to a bright and glorious future. He bowed, left the podium, and walked to the diplomatic bloc.